The thunder rolled over the city, shaking the tiny maid's quarters where Amara Johnson scrubbed the cracked floor with blistered hands. She whispered to herself, "One day, I'll walk into a room and they'll see me." Her heart pounded louder than the storm when the phone rang, slicing the silence like a blade. It was Adrian Knight, the billionaire whose name made even powerful men bow. His voice was low, commanding, and cruel. Adrian said, "You will attend my gala tonight, no excuses." Amara froze, her rag dripping onto the wooden floor. She whispered back, "Sir, I'm only the maid." His reply burned through the receiver, "You will come or you will regret it." Her tears blurred the shadows, yet anger stirred beneath the fear. The storm outside echoed the storm inside, as her world shifted from invisible servitude to dangerous attention. The storm pressed against the window as Amara Johnson sank onto her narrow bed, phone still in hand. She whispered, "Why me? Why now?" Her chest ached, but beneath the ache stirred a fire. She remembered her mother's voice saying, "Never let them see you small." The idea of walking into Adrian's world felt like stepping into fire with bare feet, but refusing him would mean losing everything. She pressed her palm against her pounding heart and said aloud, "I will go even if I burn." The storm howled in agreement, rattling her fragile walls. Though she feared ridicule, something inside whispered she was meant for more. Shadows moved across the room, and she lifted her chin, realizing the choice had already been made the moment he called. Amara Johnson rose from the bed, her knees shaking, and crossed the room to face the mirror. Cracks in the glass fractured her reflection, showing a woman divided by fear and longing. She whispered, "You are more than their maid." Her fingers brushed her braids, her eyes red but burning with hidden resolve. She remembered nights when she dreamed of gowns and music, only to wake with a mop in hand. Adrian's command was a chain and an opening both. She closed her eyes and saw herself walking into a ballroom, heads turning, whispers trailing. Her lips trembled, but she forced a smile at her reflection. "Let them see me," she said as thunder roared again, echoing the daring in her voice. The old clock ticked louder as the night dragged on. Amara Johnson sat cross-legged on the floor, staring at the torn edges of a fashion magazine she had once rescued from the trash. She traced the outlines of gowns with her finger, imagining silk instead of rags. Her heart raced at the thought of entering Adrian's world, dressed like nothing she had ever worn. She whispered, "They will laugh at me," and then added, "But they will look." A gust of wind shook the shutters, scattering pages across the floor like fallen petals. She gathered them, pressing them close, her chest swelling with both dread and wild hope. The clock ticked again, relentless, reminding her that dawn and the gala were coming fast. Sleep never came. Amara Johnson lay awake, listening to the storm ease into silence, her mind chasing possibilities. She thought of Adrian Knight, his voice like a blade, his demand like a chain. She imagined the eyes of strangers fixed on her, some judging, some shocked, some secretly envious. "If I walk in as me," she whispered into the dark. Her chest rose sharply with the weight of the choice. She had been invisible all her life, but tonight invisibility would no longer protect her. Her heart ached with both terror and hunger for dignity. She turned onto her side, staring at the faint glow of dawn crawling through the cracked window, and whispered, "This storm will be mine." The dawn crept into the room, painting cracked walls with pale gold. Amara Johnson sat upright, clutching her knees as memories flooded back. She remembered her father's absence, her mother's long hours cleaning houses, and the whispers from neighbors who said she would never be more than the help. She whispered, "I carry their weight, but I want my own wings." A fragment of her mother's voice returned to her, strong and steady. "Your scars are not your shame. They are your proof." Tears welled, but Amara refused to let them fall. The gala loomed like a mountain, terrifying yet impossible to ignore. She pressed her hand to her chest and said, "If I fail, I'll fail standing tall." The quiet morning held its breath, as though even the walls knew her life would change tonight. Amara rifled through her small wooden chest, finding only a few worn dresses and shoes with scuffed soles. She let out a sharp laugh that caught in her throat. A maid in rags at a billionaire's gala. What a joke. But even as she spoke, her hands smoothed the faded fabric with care. She whispered, "This is all I have, but I will make them see me." She remembered sneaking glimpses of gowns at shop windows, their silk shimmering like a different universe. She had once promised herself she would not die unseen, even if she lived in shadows. Her chest rose with the thought, this night would not erase her pain, but it could reveal her worth. She whispered, "I deserve one night where I'm not invisible." The words lingered, heavy and defiant. As afternoon stretched in, Amara found herself standing at the cracked mirror again, this time holding the dress against her body. She tilted her head, imagining herself under chandeliers, though the fabric sagged and the seams frayed. She whispered, "They will see me as nothing." Then her jaw tightened. "But I will still walk in." Her mother's voice haunted her. "You are not less because they say so." She traced the dress along her skin, her reflection fractured but fierce. She remembered little dreams she buried, learning piano, traveling, falling in love without fear. Adrian's command forced her into his world, but maybe fate had forced her to face herself. She whispered with a half smile, "Even if I'm laughed at, they'll remember my face." A flicker of pride stirred in her chest. The hours crawled, and Amara heard footsteps in the hallway. Her best friend Tasha Green knocked softly before stepping inside. Tasha, a seamstress who had always spoken truth without mercy, looked at the dress in Amara's hands and shook her head. "They'll eat you alive in that." Amara bristled. "It's all I have." Tasha crossed her arms, eyes sharp, then softened. "Then let me fix it. You'll go, but you'll go with dignity." Amara's throat tightened as she whispered, "Why are you always here for me?" Tasha replied, "Because if you don't believe in yourself, I will. But don't mistake me, I'll drag you out of that ballroom if you let them break you." Their gazes locked, and in the silence, Amara felt her fear bend into something stronger, hope. Tasha worked quickly, needle flashing in her hands as Amara sat nearby, watching every stitch like it was a prayer. The fabric remained simple, but Tasha's adjustments gave it shape and dignity. Amara whispered, "You're saving me." Tasha smirked, not looking up. "No, girl. I'm showing you what's already there." Amara touched the fabric, feeling new strength in its folds. Her heart thudded. "I will walk in with my head high." Tasha paused, locking eyes with her. "Then remember, your worth isn't measured by their stares." Amara swallowed hard, whispering, "But they will stare." The ticking clock grew louder, pressing in on the room. The storm had passed, but a greater storm waited. For the first time, Amara dared to imagine that maybe, just maybe, she could belong. The carriage from Knight Enterprises pulled up outside the servants' quarters, just as dusk cloaked the narrow street. Its sleek black body gleamed under flickering street lamps, far too polished for the shabby buildings around it. Amara Johnson froze, her heart stopping when she saw it. "He sent for me," she whispered, her voice trembling as if naming a curse. Her palms dampened, the mended dress pressed tightly to her chest. The driver, an older man with tired eyes, stepped out in uniform, bowing stiffly. "Miss Johnson, Mr. Knight awaits you." The sound of her name twisted inside her, half terrifying, half intoxicating. Her breath caught. Adrian's command had not been an empty threat. He had summoned her like she belonged to him. Fear clawed at her ribs, yet behind it surged something hotter, stranger, a thrill she dared not name. She whispered, "One night, I'll face him one night." The storm in her chest raged louder than the quiet night air pressing against the polished car, waiting like a trap. The ride into the city was swallowed by silence, yet every flicker of neon lights outside clawed at Amara Johnson's nerves. Her fingers twitched against her lap, forcing themselves into stillness as if stillness could disguise her fear. Across from her sat Adrian Knight, dark suit immaculate, his posture flawless, his eyes fixed on her with unshakable intensity. He looked like a man sculpted from steel, and every glance cut into her skin. At last his voice sliced through the silence, smooth and merciless. I expect obedience, Amara, not hesitation. Her breath stilled. She met his gaze, voice trembling but refusing to break. You dragged me here, Adrian. I owe you nothing. For a moment, his lips curved into a smirk, predatory and amused. We'll see how long you hold that fire, he murmured. Outside, the skyline loomed, towers of glass and light rising like monuments to his power. For every mile they drew closer, Amara's fear thickened, but so did her defiance, hardening like steel beneath her fragile frame. They arrived at the Grand Hotel, a palace of gold and glass rising against the night sky. The entrance blazed with chandeliers spilling light onto velvet ropes, where photographers flashed cameras like lightning. Amara Johnson's throat tightened as the chauffeur opened her door. Adrian Knight stepped out first, the picture of authority, and extended his hand with a smirk that seemed both invitation and command. Come, he said. Amara hesitated, trembling, the mended dress heavy on her skin. Then she placed her hand in his, and the world erupted. Flashes exploded. Voices buzzed. The billionaire had brought a woman who did not belong to their glittering world. The whispers carried sharp edges. Who is she? A servant? Unbelievable. But Amara lifted her chin, forcing her lungs to breathe against the crushing stares. She whispered into the chaos, "See me." Adrian glanced at her, lips curling with dark amusement. Careful, Amara. The world is watching. And she realized the night had already claimed her. The ballroom swallowed her whole, drowning her senses in crystal chandeliers, marble floors, and the dizzying perfume of wealth. Amara Johnson's steps echoed as Adrian Knight guided her forward with his hand resting firmly at her back. The air seemed to sharpen with every gaze fixed on her. Silk gowns shimmered, jeweled collars sparkled, and whispers sliced the air like knives. Who is she? A maid? He can't be serious. Amara's spine straightened, her chest rising with every judgment hurled at her. She clung to Tasha's words, "Your worth isn't their measure." She whispered, "Walk tall," grounding herself against the tide of contempt. Adrian leaned close, his lips brushing her ear. "Every one of them envies you already." The words coiled through her like fire, confusing and igniting. Her hands shook, but her chin lifted. Bathed in chandelier light, she looked like both prey and predator, a storm wrapped in fragile fabric, daring to rage in the heart of their kingdom. At the center of the ballroom, the music swelled, violins weaving through the tense air. Adrian Knight's presence commanded reverence, but Amara Johnson's presence ignited scandal. A ripple parted the crowd as Vanessa Cole, jeweled like royalty, glided forward with her diamond-studded gown catching every drop of light. Her eyes locked on Amara, venom sharpened into elegance. "Adrian," she purred, her voice dripping with disdain, "truly? This is your choice?" Amara's breath hitched, the words slicing deeper than she expected. But Adrian's smirk widened, his voice calm and deliberate. "Yes, and she will stay at my side tonight." Vanessa's smile faltered, her eyes raking Amara from head to toe with cruel precision. The crowd leaned in, waiting for her collapse. But Amara whispered under her breath, "You won't break me." Adrian glanced at her then, his expression unreadable, but in his eyes flickered something dangerously close to pride. The tension between them crackled louder than the orchestra's strings. And in that moment, Amara realized she wasn't only surviving, she was becoming the storm itself. The music faded to a hush as whispers surged louder than the violins. Amara Johnson felt the ballroom press in on her, but her gaze was pulled to a figure at the far end of the marble floor. A man she thought long buried in memory stepped from the shadows. Marcus Reed, the ex who had once promised her the world and left her with nothing, now stood in a tailored tux, his smile both familiar and venomous. "Amara," he called across the crowd, his voice smooth, mocking, cruel. Adrian Knight's arm stiffened against her back, his eyes narrowing at the intruder. Amara's chest ached, the wound of betrayal reopening as though no years had passed. The night had turned, and with it came the ghost she never wanted to face. Amara's breath faltered as Marcus Reed moved closer, each step deliberate, dragging the past into the present. His eyes glimmered with secrets, the same eyes that once convinced her to trust and love. "Didn't think you'd see me again, did you?" he whispered when he reached them. Adrian Knight positioned himself between them, jaw tight, voice like steel. "You are not welcome here." Marcus smirked, leaning just enough to pierce Adrian's calm. "Funny I didn't come for you. I came for her." Gasps echoed in the crowd. Amara's lips trembled, but she forced words past the lump in her throat. "You lost that right years ago." Her voice cracked, yet her chin lifted. The room vibrated with tension, every eye watching, every secret unraveling in real time. Memories surged as Amara stood trapped between the man who abandoned her and the man who commanded her. She remembered nights Marcus promised forever, only to vanish with whispers of another woman. His return wasn't fate, it was cruelty. "You left me with nothing," she whispered, voice trembling but sharp. Marcus chuckled, the sound slicing her chest. "Nothing? You became stronger because of me." Adrian Knight's eyes darkened, his hand brushing hers with silent strength. "Don't mistake cruelty for power," Adrian growled. The crowd leaned in, hungry for scandal, while Amara felt her scars rip open and pulse with fire. She had spent years hiding them, but now the ballroom saw them laid bare. For the first time she wasn't ashamed. She was furious. Vanessa Cole stepped forward, seizing the chaos with a predator's grin. Her jeweled gown glittered like sharpened knives as she turned to the crowd. Oh, how poetic. The maid with two men fighting over her. Laughter rippled cruelly. Amara's throat tightened, shame rising. But Adrian's hand steadied her back. He glared at Vanessa, voice low but cutting. "Careful, Vanessa, your envy shows." She tilted her head, eyes narrowing on Amara. "This is humiliation wrapped in defiance. Do you truly think you belong here?" Amara swallowed hard, then drew breath. Her voice cracked yet carried. "I belong wherever I stand, and I'm standing here." Gasps rippled through the room again, but this time some whispers shifted into reluctant awe. The storm in her no longer trembled, it thundered. The music swelled again, though no one danced. Adrian Knight's voice broke through, calm yet carrying steel. "If anyone doubts her place, let them test me." The declaration stunned the room. Marcus Reed's smirk faltered, Vanessa's jeweled smile stiffened, and every guest froze beneath Adrian's authority. Amara's heart pounded as she whispered to herself, "Not his shield, my storm." She stepped slightly ahead of Adrian, turning to Marcus. "You don't own me. You never did. And you never will." The words left her trembling, but her spine stayed straight, her eyes locked on the man who had once broken her. Marcus sneered, but beneath it flickered something, shame or fear. For the first time, she had taken back her story. The ballroom knew it, and so did he. The ballroom air thickened until every breath felt like fire. Marcus Reed stepped closer, his voice low but laced with venom. "Tell them, Amara. Tell them who you really are." Gasps rippled through the crowd, hungry for blood. Adrian Knight's jaw tightened, his hand curling into a fist at his side, but Amara raised hers to stop him. "No," she whispered, trembling, yet her voice carried. "I will tell them myself." Her chest ached, shame clawing up her throat, but she forced the words out. "Yes, I was a maid. I scrubbed floors. I carried their scraps. But that doesn't make me less." Silence fell sharp as glass. Marcus sneered, but his victory was stolen as Amara's spine straightened, her dignity burning brighter than the chandeliers above. Vanessa Cole's laughter cut through the silence, brittle and cruel. "A maid parading in a ballroom. Adrian, is this your idea of power?" Her jeweled gown glittered as she sneered at Amara. But Adrian's eyes never left Amara's face, his voice calm yet thunderous. Power is standing where others tried to bury you. Power is surviving. The words wrapped around Amara like armor, but Marcus hissed back, surviving isn't winning. Amara turned, her voice sharper than steel. Surviving is the reason I'm still standing here while you hide behind lies. Her words struck like daggers, echoing through the marble walls. Whispers surged again, no longer laced only with contempt, but with awe. For the first time, the crowd was forced to see her as more than a shadow. Adrian Knight stepped forward, his presence commanding silence. "Enough," he growled, voice reverberating through the hall. His eyes locked on Marcus Reed, cold and sharp as a blade. "You abandoned her, and now you dare shame her here? You are not a man. You are a coward." Marcus's smirk faltered, but his pride forced him to sneer. "And what are you, Adrian? A tyrant who drags her like a trophy?" The question cracked open the tension, slicing through Amara's chest. She turned to Adrian, her voice trembling. "Is that what this is to you? Am I a trophy?" The room froze as the question hung between them like lightning ready to strike. Adrian's lips parted, words caught in his throat, the truth straining against his pride. For the first time, even he looked vulnerable. The silence broke as Adrian Knight exhaled, his voice raw. "No, you are not my trophy, Amara. You are the only person who ever dared to stand against me. You are the storm I cannot command." His confession cracked open the tension, filling the air with shock and fire. Amara's breath caught, her heart slamming against her ribs. Marcus scoffed, voice sharp with jealousy. "And yet, she will still choose dignity over your chains." Amara stepped forward, tears burning her eyes. "I am not choosing chains. I am choosing myself. If I stand with anyone, it will not be because I was forced, but because I decide." Her words cut through both men, echoing with a truth even the chandeliers seemed to tremble under. She was no longer invisible. She was undeniable. The orchestra struck a single trembling note as the storm reached its peak. Amara Johnson stood between two men, one from her past, one from her present, and both threatening to define her future. But her voice cut through the air, steady and resolute. "I am not a prize to be won, not a secret to be exposed, and not a possession to be paraded. I am mine." The words shattered the ballroom's silence, echoing like thunder. Marcus Reed's face paled with fury. Vanessa Cole's jeweled smile cracked, and even Adrian Knight stood stunned, as if the ground beneath him had shifted. Amara's chest rose, her breath sharp but steady. For the first time she was no longer running, no longer hiding. The storm she carried had broken free, and the world was forced to see her in its full, blinding power. The ballroom finally exhaled, whispers dying into uneasy silence. Amara Johnson stood tall, her declaration echoing in the marble hall. Marcus Reed turned sharply, anger tightening his jaw, but his power had already drained away. Vanessa Cole's jeweled smile fractured, her eyes darting like broken glass. Adrian Knight's gaze softened, something raw flickering beneath his pride. Amara's chest rose with shaky breaths, her hands trembling at her sides, but she refused to lower her head. "I am mine," she whispered again, this time only for herself. For the first time, she wasn't waiting for applause, acceptance, or rescue. She had chosen her own place. The storm had passed, but the silence that followed was heavier than thunder. Adrian Knight stepped closer, his voice stripped of arrogance. "Amara," he said, low and unguarded, "you are more than I deserve." His words cut through her, not with cruelty but with truth. Her chest tightened, eyes burning. "I didn't come here to be chosen, Adrian. I came to choose myself." He nodded, the smirk gone, his face shadowed with vulnerability. "And that is why you are stronger than all of us." Behind them the crowd shifted, murmurs uncertain now, no longer filled with laughter, but with quiet respect. For the first time, Amara realized she had not only survived the night, she had transformed it. Yet her heart ached, torn between the man who had broken her, the man who had commanded her, and the woman she had finally become. Marcus Reed's voice cut once more, desperate and sharp. You think this ends here, Amara? You'll always be that girl scrubbing floors. His words sliced, but they no longer bled. Amara turned, her voice steady as steel. I will always carry my scars, Marcus, but they remind me of where I refuse to stay. His smirk faltered, his face paling under the crystal light. You're nothing without me, he spat, but his voice wavered. Amara shook her head, whispering, I was everything despite you. The words landed like a final blow. The crowd turned cold on Marcus, their eyes condemning, no longer feeding his pride. He stood exposed, hollow in his arrogance. And for the first time, it was he who looked small. Vanessa Cole swept forward, her heels clicking like daggers, voice sharp with venom. Do you truly believe they will ever accept you, Amara? You may scream dignity, but you'll never be one of us. Her words were cold, calculated to wound. Amara inhaled deeply, her chest rising as she met Vanessa's icy gaze. I don't need to be one of you. I only need to be me. The line sliced through Vanessa's facade, her flawless poise cracking as silence fell again. Adrian Knight's eyes glinted with something close to pride, though he said nothing. Vanessa faltered, her jeweled gown glittering hollowly in the unforgiving light. The crowd, once her audience, now turned away. The queen had lost her crown, and Amara had claimed the ground with nothing but her voice. The orchestra began again, a soft, trembling tune, but no one danced. Amara Johnson turned slowly, her gaze sweeping the hall. For the first time, she saw not mockery but silence, weighty and undeniable. Adrian Knight stepped to her side, his voice low. Whatever you choose next, know you already won tonight. She closed her eyes briefly, letting the words settle, but her heart whispered, victory always carries loss. She had walked into fire and survived, but scars burned beneath her skin, reminders of the price. She whispered, barely audible, this storm is mine, and so is the calm that follows. With trembling hands she lifted her chin. The night was not redemption, nor destruction. It was truth, raw and merciless. And truth was enough. The night bled into silence as the ballroom emptied, one glittering guest after another slipping away. Amara Johnson stood alone, the weight of her declaration still vibrating in the golden air. Adrian Knight lingered at her side, his presence powerful but uncertain. You shook their world tonight, he said softly. She exhaled, her voice raw. I didn't want their world. I only wanted to prove I existed outside of their shadows. His eyes searched hers, flickering with admiration and regret. For once, Adrian Knight seemed unsure, stripped of his armor. Amara's heart ached, torn between what he offered and the pain he represented. The chandeliers dimmed, leaving her in the fragile glow of truth. Adrian stepped closer, his voice stripped of command. Amara, I cannot erase the way I forced you into this, but I will not lie. I cannot forget you now. Her breath caught, his vulnerability like a wound revealed. She whispered, do you even know what love is, Adrian? Or is it only power you crave? He swallowed, lips pressed into a line, unable to answer quickly. The silence stretched, filled with the ghosts of everything left unsaid. Amara turned away, her chest burning. She wanted to believe, yet her scars whispered caution. The storm was over, but love itself still felt dangerous, like lightning waiting to strike again. Marcus Reed's departure had left a hollow echo, but his poison lingered. Amara Johnson walked to the cracked window of the ballroom, staring at the city lights beyond. They'll never forget what happened here, she whispered, not sure if it was triumph or curse. Adrian Knight joined her, his reflection fractured beside hers in the glass. Let them remember, he said. Let them choke on it. Amara's lips curved faintly, but her eyes glistened. Memories can be cages, Adrian. I don't want to be trapped again. His hand hovered near hers, close but not touching, as though afraid she might burn him. Outside, the city pulsed, alive and merciless, ready to carry her story into whispers and legends. The orchestra played its final notes, soft as whispers fading into silence. Amara Johnson turned to Adrian Knight, her voice trembling but unyielding. "If you want me, Adrian, you must see me as I am, not as something you own, not as something you command." His breath caught, pride breaking under her gaze. "Then I will spend my days proving it," he said, voice raw, almost a vow. Her heart trembled, caught between trust and fear, love and dignity. She whispered, "Words are not enough. If I stay, it will be because of actions, not promises." The chandeliers flickered, as though echoing the fragile flame between them. For the first time, the silence carried not judgment, but possibility. The ballroom stood empty now, only echoes of music and whispers lingering in its walls. Amara Johnson walked slowly toward the doors, her dress brushing against marble like a final goodbye. Adrian Knight remained behind, watching, his figure shadowed by fading light. She paused, her hand resting against the gilded doorframe, her back straight, her heart heavy. "I am mine," she whispered one last time, her voice steady, leaving the words carved into the silence. Then she stepped forward, leaving the ballroom, leaving the weight of judgment behind. The doors closed with a soft echo, like thunder fading in the distance. And in that echo her storm lived on, haunting, unforgettable.